Welcome to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs, where you'll find real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts you need for entrepreneurship. If you've ever felt like midlife was too late to launch a business, write a book, or chase a dream, think again. I'm Lynette Turner, your host, and I'm bringing you inspiring conversations and practical tips to help nudge you forward and keep growing in midlife. So let's jump in.
Well, welcome, Miss Beth Baker from Hot Flash Marketing. Already, I'm pretty sure we've caught the attention of our listeners just with that name. I am going to hand the floor right over to you, and you just give us a bit of a background, and then we're going to get right into it.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me too. I so much appreciate talking to your audience and you about this. So my Hot Flash Marketing business has actually just in the infantile stage of it. It's been around for about 2 years now, but I've done marketing for other people for 5 years. And then I had my own company for a while. And I did the marketing for that for about 20 years. I love getting people's names out there. And that's kind of how not stumbled about this, but kind of geared towards this path right now.
Now, you didn't start out as a brand marketing business. You started out as something much different, and it went on and you were quite successful at it for about 20 years. Why don't you talk a little bit about your previous career?
Yeah, sure. So I had a company called Running Evolution for 20 years. I still have it. I just don't do much with it. It kind of just runs itself, which is super cool. And it was coaching people who never run before to start to run. So the idea was people who, I had a hard time running when I started running at 26 years old. And I got past it and I thought, this is amazing. And that's running is such a great way to exercise and get outside and talk to people. And so I kind of wanted to share it with the world. And I moved to Seattle. I was kind of lacking community because Seattle is a hard place to meet people. If anybody knows, it's called the Seattle Freeze. And so it was kind of an essential way for me to get outside and get people gathered and exercising together, which is fun outside. And then it grew and it was crazy. So I loved doing that for all the years and lost my passion for it during the pandemic, I think, and kind of picked this up. So it was, I think, the same kind of thing, though. I still like the idea of connecting people and getting messages out. So that was the thing that kind of catapulted me into doing this.
Yeah. So you were around 26, and then is that when you actually started the running coaching?
I started about when I was 32. I started it in January of 2006. Surprisingly, got pregnant in March via red wine. And then I worked at a radio station, and so I started the business, so had the job, had the side hustle, and then I was getting pregnanter and pregnanter. And then at the end of almost 8.5 months, I got laid off from my job, had the baby, and then kind of took the running business full board in 6 months. So it was kind of crazy, and it worked out.
So exactly, it totally did. And so what I love about that story is that it was like you called it a side hustle in your 30s. So that was 20 years ago, or
it wasn't called
15
a
years
side
ago.
hustle. It was just a hobby. It's a hobby.
Yeah. But it's interesting how a hobby can grow into something if you don't think about it. It's almost just like, I'm just gonna, this is a passion that I like to do. It's a very similar theme to what I hear from a lot of women entrepreneurs is that they first solve the problem for themselves,
Right.
and then they start to solve the problem for somebody else. And so, I mean, when we were on our pre-call and you were talking about this running and helping people learn to run, I was like, oh God, I would probably totally love that because I cannot run at all, even on a treadmill, and B, let alone outside. So, it's okay. I think that it was probably really appreciative. So how did the community form? It was interesting you used the word community because I think community nowadays seems to be a really hot word. But years ago, it wasn't so much. And so everybody's even when you think about these running clubs that are out there and all these DJs now that are hosting these running clubs, and it's kind of replacing the Bumbles and the Tinders and the sort of the dating apps out there. So how did you know that this community was going to be sort of that piece that was going to be the sticky part of that business?
I grew up not having community, and I just knew when I found it, I'm like, oh, this is important. And resonated with me on a very primal level. And I kind of talking to people when you're running, it's weird because when you're not looking, it's like being in a car when you're not looking at each other. And you start talking to people while you're running. We're going slow. We're going really slow. So people are able to talk and run at the same time. And people just kind of like come forth with their information and their worries and their concerns and their stories too. And I'm like, oh, these people aren't as different as me. They just have the same kind of concerns. And so it happened really quickly where I was just like, oh, this is a thing. I think this is the thing that people really need, especially women. But not having that eye contact, and then when you're tired and you can't like put on airs anymore, or you're, like it's just a very vulnerable situation. That's kind of beautiful. So I don't know. I never sold it as like a running group. I sold it as a community that happens to run. And it was, and post pandemic and like post internet and post social media, which is kind of a farce because it doesn't solve the social part. It just does get people on screens. People really need to be in person with each other so they can get that instant feedback and instant connection. And so I think now people really, really need it as far as getting people together and actually having that that heart feel, it's a thing. So I know I can see it all around me, but yeah, it's pretty special.
The personal connection for sure, but that in touch, in person touch, it's sort of, it's not touching, but it's like, it feels more connected when it definitely is in person. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, okay. So then you woke up one day and you were like, okay, it's over. I'm not going to do this anymore. So
Yeah, it was during COVID.
there's so much to unpack there
Yeah.
because you were obviously connected to the community side of it, which is even harder. I feel like sometimes you might be connected, you might have a business that is a product or a service, but it doesn't really have a personal connection like you're talking about. How did you know it was over?
I think that the thing was when because I was doing all the classes and running all the groups and having to step back during COVID, but I couldn't be. I actually got long COVID. I got long COVID during that time, so I couldn't run at all. And I felt this like weight off of me. This is going to sound terrible, but it was like talking to people, and people were talking to you, and they're talking to you, and it's not like a reciprocal friendship thing that you have. It's like more of a client patient thing, like a therapist. So when I'm like, oh, I'm not actually going to. I'm not part of this community. They are part of the community. I'm just the organizer. So I think that's when it goes, I need to step back and do something that is more meaningful to me, that I can grow again, which took a long time because I felt like I was trying to make these people happy and all the things. And I'm like, it doesn't serve me anymore. It didn't serve my need anymore. It did for a long time, but and then after it just didn't. I think something in me healed. And I think it was like, I'm done. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was scary, but it wasn't bad.
Did you ever think that was there a sense of guilt or I think the biggest thing for a lot of women is that we can feel, oh God, I can't do that because, it's for me and that's too selfish. And
for sure.
This community. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I had a business coach and who's also a psychotherapist, and she was great. Jessica Butts. Go look her up. She's great. And she was like, is this something, like she kept asking me, she's like, is this something you want to do anymore? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and she kept asking me, I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, there we go. And I think it's just having the people, and it was my bread and butter too, which is it was paying my mortgage with it. So that was something also. I'm like, what else am I going to do? And I knew I could do this thing. So I knew that I needed to do something that helped my brain a little bit better in a different way.
Awesome. So Beth, you talked about a therapist, so you kind of slid that in a little. So let's talk about that because I just want to hear, when did you know, how did you know that you needed some help? Because it seemed like this business was running pretty good. I mean, yes, you did get, very sick at one point. What was the catalyst for getting a therapist?
I just needed help. I needed some guidance, somebody who had not been in my shoes, but had kind of know what to do. And she was a business coach, but she's also a psychotherapist. So it was a great match of business for brains who need help trying to transition that thing. And she gave me, I just didn't know what to do. I felt like I was out to sea, and I didn't have a path, which is so scary. because you're growing up and you have a thing, and then you do your other thing. And if you decide to have kids, and you do that thing, and if you don't decide to have kids, you do that thing. So it was a weird thing to have like no direction. So I'm like, I felt terribly lost, which was super scary to me. So I'm like, I need help. And she was great. And she helped kind of guide me to this transitional area in my life.
You know, exactly. And I feel like that is so relatable when you change identities in midlife, and everybody will. So it just
Right.
get to know that. Get like everybody changes identity in midlife. You realize you like, holy cow, if I don't have a plan, which I don't think a lot of women do have a plan. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted. Like,
Right.
what's next was my big question to myself. And, as I was talking to my friends, but it was also, I think too, we live life. I think a majority of us live life on default, not with by design. So it sort of sounded like you leveraged this to build a design-filled life, maybe.
Yes, yes, and I think, and it's funny to hear you say that because I'm like, well, of course you would, but I am entitled because I have, like, again, I've talked to thousands and thousands of women, honestly, while running. So I was like a sponge from all these people who like never talked about therapy and never, and like it just seems like there should be a way for women to. I think life is just too short. Life is too short not to know what you're going to do. And the shorter it gets, you like, I felt like, oh, I got to get this figured out. Like, not quickly, but just got to get it figured out. I just felt like life is too short. And I also didn't I cared less what people thought about me too. So that's why I tell my story. Like, of course I went to therapy. I'm like, because the stigma wasn't there like it would have been 30 years ago. I'm such an open.
But not to a point where you're oversharing it, which I think is wonderful too. And even, yeah, exactly. It's just healthy. Like, yeah, you know what? I worked with somebody, they helped me get through some things. And then all of a sudden, hot flash marketing is born. So
Yeah.
talk about that. So first of all, let's talk about the name. All right. Everybody's probably thinking hot flash marketing. How did she come up with that name? And what does it really symbolize to you?
First of all, I love naming things. I love naming things so much. I name things all the time. I name things that shouldn't be named. And one of our runners was a professional namer, and I'm like, oh, that's a thing, which is so cool. So
A professional
namer.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's the thing is like that was so cool. Like about having this job is like I've met so many people that did so many crazy wild things, but that was her job. She was a professional namer. She named products.
I love it.
Yeah.
Never heard of
I know. Anyways, I'm like, oh, there's a thing. That's a thing. So, yeah, I love marketing. I think I remember like I was actually in Costco a couple days ago. I'm like, when watching, like looking at the brands and looking at the packaging. And I kind of grew up in a scarcity household where we didn't have a lot of food and a lot of, things and stuff. And I just remember going to the market and like pretending to buy things and like looking at like I would buy that and I would buy that. And I think that's where it came from, just like seeing the desire and attraction from a consumer level, which sounds super schmaltzy, but it's honestly like I
love it.
seeing things that come to life and like make sure it matches, make sure like the brand matches the messaging and like if it's organic or not, all the things that come into a product or even a service or anything that happens. So I can see it on a very 30,000 foot level of like making sure that things fit. So, but the hot flash marketing came from, I was in a hot flash era. And I think it's such a great name because it's such a fun name. And that describes such a weird sensation in the body. Like you just have to throw off the clothes and be hot for a second. And I had helped people with marketing during the pandemic, and I was really good at it. I didn't know how to like a process, but I just kind of, barfed out ideas for people. And then, yeah, I'm like, well, let's make a little company and let's call it Hot Flash Marketing. And then we also to bring community back in, we started having Hot Flash mobs. And that was people, women getting together to help create community, like in-person events, because there were so many online events that were happening. I'm like, people need to be together.
So tell us a little bit about your your target, your ideal client avatar?
Yeah, I love working. Of course, I love working with for female-owned businesses. I love the second act of businesses, and I love a business that has a personal stories, or having like a person-driven company, any company that can tell a story and bring it back to the actual values of whatever it is. So I have a seafood company that is owned by a woman, and she's killing it right now. But she's the fifth generation fisherman, and she has 3 kids, and just this beautiful story. She's Norwegian, and I'm Norwegian as well. So, and just having this thing, I'm like, I can take that as like a little ball of like gold, and just spin it for people, and just tell people how wonderful you are. And of course, her product is amazing too. That helps. So just having that, like a story inside, even if you don't know your story, I will find your story and spin it for people to let them know who you are, and what you're good at, and how people can find you. And I think that's just like, that I just love doing it. And then of course,
Yeah,
bringing people
no,
together.
I love that. And I'm going to just highlight that storytelling piece, because I think like we can really understand who we want to serve, but in order to tell them what we do for them, we also have to tell them, I think, who we are. And I think we really all have a hard time telling our brand story. I
Yeah.
guess like, oh yeah. So I know you and I are going to be working together specifically about a few things.
Yeah, thank you.
Where we're gonna, so actually, let's just go into that a little bit right now. What kind of offers do you, because I think you and I are gonna do this like intensive, like, let's get the naming. I have, as you know, I have a couple of programs that I'm just about to launch, and like I'm finally taking them out of beta. That's my own mindset thing.
Yeah, I have like a pick your brain, or pick my brain, because this is actually my 4th business. I had a t-shirt company for a while, and I had a retreat company that actually I still have as well. So I feel like I've done a lot and failed a lot. And I love helping women not fail at the things that they shouldn't fail at. You're going to fail, but I don't want you to fail at the things that you should not. And yeah, if it's just like laser focused, I can't cuss, but get the SHIT stuff done, and making sure that you have a solid product by the end of the couple hours we work together. So it feels good, and you feel confident.
Yeah. And then so talk a little bit about what else you offer. Because there's other packages too.
Yeah, I do social media coaching and brand consultation for small businesses as well. So making sure that the brand fits, and the messaging matches everything. So there's a lot of confusion around what brand is, and that what people, it's basically kind of stems from their ideal clients. Make sure that they are being talked, their ideal client is being talked to in the not proper way, but the efficient way, and that you have everything available. I think as women and business owners, we kind of get too much in the weeds, and we talk to people like they know what we're talking about. And I think that's like
Right.
a huge, huge problem. Not problem, it's just an issue. And I'm like, I don't know what you do for a living.
Yeah.
And talk to me like I'm 5 years old. That's what your clients need to hear, because you got to solve their problem. And if you're talking to them about your systems and your growth expectations and all the things, and you got to kind of back it up to make sure that it matches who you're talking to, because that gets lost a lot.
Absolutely. And as you were talking there, it made me think like there's this saying out there, like all you need to start a business is a 10% edge. And I think based on what you're saying there, I think as we get 20%, 30%, 40%, and then 100% into our business, we lose that messaging,
Yeah.
because at 10%, I can explain it because I'm still in it at that stage, and I'm only just a little bit ahead of you. But and I think that is probably really good advice. Talk to me like I used to say this as I was facilitating culture sessions. Talk to me, tell me that now, as if you're talking to my 11-year-old son, because I'll tell you right now, he wouldn't understand a word you just said there, And it's really true. I love that.
I just want to make sure that they want to get the correct thing out into the world.
Exactly. And you create this sort of safe environment to
Yes,
So
yes.
that's great. Yeah, that's great. So on that topic, a little bit about the marketing side of things, what is one outdated piece of marketing?
I think all marketing is good marketing. Not marketing is bad marketing. Um, wherever your client is, that's where you should be. And it's just finding those things. I know that's not the answer you wanted, but
No.
I just tell people to pick 3 places to plot yourself down and show off what you got. I know that
Right.
sounds really simple, but people get confused on what that is, especially with the social media. And I mean, there's just so many ways to show off your brand, and people aren't going to buy from social media. And I think that's kind of a place maybe that people are putting so much emphasis on is social media, but they're all marketing is good marketing, and just make sure that it matches. I think that's the problem when it doesn't match your product or your service. That's when it fails.
And that makes me think, Beth, how often should I be pitching my services? So let's say I have a regular newsletter that goes out. I have, I'm posting on social media. I'm, doing all these things. When do I inform? When do I just give behind the scenes kind of excitement behind it?
Yeah. I think that it's important to have, and this is something I'm so bad at for my personal stuff, is to have a schedule and making sure that there's a launch pad, making sure that you get people to know up or kind of tease people, let them know. And I like the AIR acronym: announce, inform, and remind. And then you can double down on all 3 of those consistently. So announcing it that you're doing this, what it is, who it's for, who it's not for. That's also important too. And then remind people all the things after, so announce, inform, remind. And then for your other packages, it's just a matter of what, in your calendar when you want to propose those to people and let people know. And I think one of the underutilized things that people don't use, I think, is just in person. Again, in person, networking and talking to people. I think people aren't doing that nearly enough.
Exactly. So you come across as a very serial entrepreneur. Obviously, you've had t-shirt business and a few other things. Tell us about the first iteration of hot flash marketing, because
Oh boy.
I do know you were doing the marketing for those businesses.
Yeah.
But then, I always encourage, just come up with an idea. Let's get a minimal viable product together and let's go out and pitch it to one person.
Yeah.
Let's get that person onboarded so that you can try it. And I think that's a really good testing ground for, is it a viable business? And are you going to be even passionate about the business? You may think you will be, but when you started in it. So tell us a little bit about the first iteration.
Yeah, I had Beth Baker coaching, and I put it on the bottom of my running news emails that went out. Like, oh, by the way, I'm doing this thing. If anybody wants, I'm taking 3 clients. You still have that kind of, it's marketing. Have selective amount of people it's open to.
Urgency.
Yeah. And people knew me, so they knew I knew, a lot of marketing too is know, like, and trust. So people knew who I was. They liked me, I think, and they trusted me because I always did the thing I was supposed to do. And that's a big part of your brand is know, like, and trust. So I had that going for me, which was nice. And that community was a hefty community in the Seattle area. And I just asked people where you're having issues in your company and how we can figure out how to work together. And they talked to me. We had a meeting, and I'm like, I think I can figure this out. And I like to problem solve as well. And I came back to it with a proposal and got off to the races. That's all. And I think I still do that. How can we work together? And if I can't help you, I know somebody who can.
So on your journey there, have you ever run into anybody, especially somebody more in their midlife, who kept delaying their launch? And did you uncover why they were delaying the launch?
Yeah, I don't think I have, but I know people who have, and I think it's a lot of it is perfectionism. Just the people who I have no, and when you're an entrepreneur for so long, you get to meet other entrepreneurs, and you kind of see what they're doing, and if you resonate with that, then it's probably something you're doing. It's the funny thing that happens, and a lot of it was perfectionism around something that they wanted it to be perfect before it went out. And that, I mean, it goes with everything that all the coaching I've done and stuff. There's always a perfectionism hurdle that happens where they're like, it's not perfect, so it's not going to happen. And I am not a perfectionist in a lot of ways. So I was like, just get it out there. I mean, I was just like, move forward with it. And that's a huge hindrance for people, that they want it just to be perfect little package. And of course, perfectionism doesn't exist. So, and that's a big hurdle for women too, I think, because I always tell like, pretend like you're a white guy. You're a white guy, it'd be out there, and it'd be half-assed, and it would be, kind of so terrible.
And I love it because it's true. I mean, we've even heard like men who only qualify for 50% of a job description are applying, and women are like, oh God, there's one thing on like the skills that I'm not going to apply for it, or putting themselves out there, putting their hand up to do this or do that. How do you help somebody feel less invisible? Like when you're talking about, creating this brand story, like how do you, what even if I don't have a product or service I want to sell, what would you say to a woman right now that really doesn't, know herself? And it's almost like, creating this personal brand or persona in your own mind, which I feel like could actually just help maneuver in the world today, especially in midlife, right? Because we do become more invisible to the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, so could you take that brand story approach and just use it as a confidence builder?
Yeah, I realized this too when I was running with women. I mean, I'm very curious. I ask questions, and I think that makes people feel seen, and ask them how they're doing. And that's it's such a low piece of hanging fruit, but I love hearing people's stories and and their normal is my crazy, and my crazy, or my normal is their crazy. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, you did this and you did this, and that's amazing. And they're like, oh, that is kind of amazing. I'm like, yeah. And I love championing people in general, but I think like finding those little nuggets of like information that makes them them. And it's like, I've been called clairvoyant before, but I can pull that out of people pretty quickly, and just listen to what they have to say, and like just get it out into the world as a marketer, or just see them, and just seeing them who for this cool thing that they who they are, even as they don't see it as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, what do you believe that you've completely unlearned
Oh
since leaving the first business, the running
yeah.
community to Hot Flash?
I'm still letting go of a couple things, and like finger by finger, you know how that is. Um, I am learning to work with other people. I've always done things by myself, but I love collaborating. I'm a better person when I collaborate, and I'm a better business person when I collaborate. So I think that's going to be because I have to do something different, because the same is not going to serve me anymore. So getting people to, like I said, I know I can find out what people's strengths are really quickly. I'm very good at that. So if I'm working with other people, I'm starting to look a little, firm right now. So I could see she's good at that. I'm not good at that. I'm not ever going to want to be good at that. As opposed to before, like I can learn to do that. And now I'm like, nope, I'm never going to learn how to do that. She's going to do that, and she's going to do a great job because she can't do what I do. So that's been a huge part of it. But make like, when as soon as you I call it the procrastination list. As soon as you put something down on the procrastination that list, that's something, and it keeps coming up over and over again. That's the thing you're going to get rid of, because then you're back into your like zone of genius, and you do that more, and then you do and some people like one of my people who work with me now loves to do like coding, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just like there's just people who love to do things that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole.
A couple more questions before we wrap it up. If you met your younger self as the woman behind Hot Flash Marketing, what would she say?
Just to embrace the chaos of everything, because I love just doing different things, and I've always wanted to do different things. Like, ever since I was a kid, I'm like, I don't never want to do one thing. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different things. And I am like, you're doing all the things that are fun for you, that are the hell yes, and don't never do the hell no. Just follow the tail that you are doing all the fun things. Do the fun things.
Okay, Beth, here we go. What's next for you?
Okay, so I've got a couple fun things. So excited about it. Awesome. I am teaming up with Early Bird Group they're coming out of Chicago. We had an idea for our hot flash mobs is to have early bird dance parties for women only, for women of a certain age. And they start at 5 o'clock and they end at 9 o'clock. And then at these like a dance party for with 80s music and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And turns out there was a company that already does that. So, which is great because I think it's such a needed thing. But we are teaming up with them in Seattle and going to be posting those up with them. So that I'm super excited about that. And then we're also having a hot flash mob in Mexico starting in October. We're having retreats. We're having a women only retreats, and we're having a business owner retreat in Mexico in January. And then maybe also in March or February. And so that's exciting as well. So
what am I coming out of those retreats as a woman in business? What am I getting from those retreats? What will I have saying, wow, that was an excellent retreat?
right. Putting the pause on your whole entire life, being around other awesome women who can collaborate, find your blind spots, and having a plan for your next year or 3 years and having fun. It's like trying to, finding the joy of your business and trying to shake that up a little bit, making sure that you can find the thing that you are good at and like you'd like to do. So making sure that just stays intact.
I love it. I love it. All right, Beth, where can people find you?
Hot Flash Marketing is my website, and I'm at Hot Flash Marketing on Instagram, but it's a terrible Instagram. Even though I do social media.
It's the shoemaker and the shoes thing. And it's terrible. Beth, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad we met. You've shared so many great tips today. So awesome. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, it's Lynette. Thanks for listening today. Please like and subscribe. And if there's somebody out there that you think could benefit from the episode, give it a share. Midlife is your time, so go get it.